Hey everyone, and welcome to the first lesson of the course. In this lesson, we are going to go over how to set up shader graph and import all the assets we need for this course. So first of all, I'm here in the Unity Hub, and what I want to do is create a new project by clicking on the new button up here. When we're here, what we want to do is make sure that our Unity version is 2018 or 2019. The higher the version, the better, but shader graph is not supported on many of the much earlier versions. So I'm going to select 2019.1. And what we also want to do is make sure that the template down here is either the lightweight render pipeline or the high definition render pipeline. So I'm going to select lightweight render pipeline here, and that's just because the shader graph isn't supported across everything within Unity at the moment. So I'm going to select lightweight render pipeline here. I'm going to rename our project to shader graph course, and then I'm going to click on the create new project button. Alright, here we are inside of Unity, and you should see a scene something like this. This is the default lightweight render pipeline basic sample scene, which just shows off the graphics for that pipeline. So what we're going to do now is actually delete the example assets here, as we won't be needing them. We'll be creating our own assets and our own materials for the shaders that we then later on create. So we'll delete the example assets down there, and while we're at it, to make our file size a bit smaller, we can also delete the example assets folder down here, which just contains all of the models, materials, and shaders for this example scene. So we can just delete that folder right there. We can also go into the materials folder. We need to keep the skybox, as this is a pretty good skybox, so we'll keep this one. We can keep presets. We can also then delete the simple camera controller script inside of our scripts folder here, and we can delete tutorial info here. Whoops, we can delete tutorial info here, and we can delete the readme asset right here. So we'll just delete that as well, and that is our project files pretty much set up and ready to go. The first thing we need to do is import some of the models that we are going to be using with our shaders. So I'm going to create a new folder here, and I'm going to call this one our models. And inside of here, I'm going to be dragging in two custom-made models and one pre-made model that is on the asset store. So first of all, we have the smooth sphere, and this is just a sphere that is fairly smooth and has quite a lot of vertices on it. That is going to be useful for when we create the warping sphere shader, so it can show much better how the sphere warps without having to worry about it looking too blocky. Okay, so this is also included inside of the project files for the course, so you can download them. And we are then going to drag in the plane, which is another asset. It's basically a grid with a bunch of miniature faces on this. And that is it for the custom models. Now we also need to download another model, and this is actually on the asset store. And really for this, you can actually download whatever model you have. If you already have models that you want to use with these shaders, then feel free to use it on those. But for us, just as an example to show off the various different shaders, we are going to import a model from the asset store. So let's go on there. And there are many free models on the asset store, but we are going to use Unity's Robot Kyle, which is a part of their Unity Technologies publisher page. So we'll go up here, and what we want to search for is going to just be Robot Kyle. Here we go, Space Robot Kyle. We can download that into our project, and then we should be good to go. Yep, we want all of these things here, so we'll click on Import, and it shouldn't take too long, and then we should have our inside our assets folder, we should have the Robot Kyle model right here. Alright, so before we go off, we are going to actually set up our basic scene. We're going to sit down a floor, and then we'll also bring in the robot model ready to have shaders applied to it. So I'm going to just right click here in the hierarchy, go 3D object, cube, and this is just going to be our ground. I'm going to increase the scale to 50 by 1 by 50. So it's a pretty large area here. To also view the skybox in the scene view, we can actually click on this button right here, and that will toggle all the various effects, fog, skybox, and yeah, you can also, if you click on this little arrow here next to it, you can toggle on and off the individual options as well. But we want all of them on, to get the best visual appearance, since we are working with shaders. And yeah, we'll have it like that. Now what we can do is bring in our model. So I'm going to go to the Robot Kyle model folder here, go into the model folder, and just drag in the model like so. There's no material applied to it right now, so that's why it is pink. So we can go to the Robot Kyle materials folder, and I'm actually just going to drag on the robot color, which actually doesn't work because there's no texture on it. So, and to fix this, we can select the material, go up to the inspector here where we can select the shader, and I am going to open this up here and select lightweight render pipeline, simple lit, and this should open it up like so. And we should then be able to go onto base map here, click on the little circle there, and select our robot underscore color material. We can then change the actual color here to white, and if we look here in the scene, we now have our robot model with the basic texture. We're of course not going to have this material applied to the model. We're going to have our own custom one applied later on, but this is just to set up the model, set up everything we need, and that is about it. So in the next lesson, we are going to go over the basics of shader graph, how to get it open, how to create a new shader, and just a basic overview of the structure of the tool, how to use it, how to connect things together, and how to then create a material with that shader. So I'll see you all in the next lesson.